My name is Maxime Sigouin. I am a former triathlete, powerlifter, bodybuilder, and basketball player, and I've been vegan for over 9 years. I'm also the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, which has helped over 500 vegans from 20 different countries to completely transform their bodies and their health. Let's get into the show. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Maxime Sigouin podcast. So very excited for this first episode. So I just started this second podcast channel, basically to be able to talk about various topics outside of necessarily just plant-based nutrition. I wanted to have guests on when it came to mindset, entrepreneurship, finances, relationships, all the other aspects of life that are actually extremely important as well. And I felt that there was a little bit of limitations for the guests that I could bring on my other podcast show, which is called the Fit Vegan Podcast, which is more highlights of our members' successful transformation. And so on this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about a variety of topics to help you level up your life as a whole, right? And so today I'm joined by my amazing fiance, Ivy, future wifey. She's going to be basically asking me questions, interviewing me on this first episode, so you guys have a little bit more insights as to, who I am, what this podcast is going to be about, and hopefully that you get some value from it to help you level up your life right away. So, Ivy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me again. I'm very excited for your very first podcast, the Maxime Sigouin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So
you're so proper. I love it. we just had a long day of work and studying and working out, and so we're very excited to record this episode. We're so dedicated to it. As you guys can see behind us, if you're watching on YouTube, it's beautiful and sunny outside, which we haven't had in a while, but we're dedicated to recording this podcast.
Okay, so let's get started.
Yes.
I wrote some questions on my little phone so I don't forget. So we'll start with the first one.
Okay.
So what inspired you to transition from Fit Vegan Podcast to your new podcast, the Maxime Sigouin Podcast?
Yeah, so I'll share the transition with a little story. So when I was 15 years old, I received the book Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And when I read it, that was my first awakening to having the ability to improve who I am as a person. And I was like, damn, that's cool. There's shit about me I don't like, and now I have the ability to change it. So I read the book, implemented all the things. I was doing some weird exercises in the book that were just sounded completely crazy at the time, but they ended up working. And I told myself, like, I want to help other people achieve that as well for them. So I started making, at the time I was like 15, making like Instagram content. And then I got to 17, 18, 19, I was making YouTube videos about self-development, and I was preaching basically everything I was learning from Tony and from the mentors that I had around me at the time. And I always wanted to be a life coach. But the thing is, who's going to listen to an 18-year-old life coach, right? No one's going to listen to him. So I had some conversation with a close mentor at the time, and he's like, hey, man, first off, take your own medicine, right? Like, you're preaching all these things and you're not doing it for yourself in your life. I was like, okay, great. I will do that. And then second, he's like, just get more life experience before you step into that. I was like, cool. I'm going to put aside all of that, and I'm just going to live my life and go acquire life experiences. And since 17, 18-year-old, I got the shit kicked out of me by life on multiple different occasions. And maybe we can dive into some of those stories in this podcast. But now I'm about to turn 30 in a few months now, which for some people may seem young, but wait till we dive into my story for you to understand why I feel ready to step into that. And ultimately, a few months ago, was it a month ago, when I was talking to my Tony Robbins coach, because I hired a coach from the Tony Robbins organization. Can't hire Tony because it's $1 million for a year and a 7-year waiting list. So I went for his coaches instead.
I mean, yeah, you can.
I can, but 7-year waiting list, right?
Right.
So I hired one of the coaches, and I don't know what triggered it, but I just, like, there's a part of me is like, I want to study to become I want to study to do what Tony Robbins was. I don't know what like sparked that. Do you remember?
Well, I just know that since we started going out, like, you've already voiced that out to me, that you wanted to be the next Tony Robbins, and you just wasn't sure how to, like, really, follow that path. Yeah. Although it's always been in your heart. And like you said, when you were 15, you got your first book, and you were inspired by Tony, and it's really like your calling, right? And you said you even practice. Actually, what were you practicing then? I didn't know about this.
The exercises?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not to get too distracted, but one of the exercises was I was biting my nails a lot when I was younger, and I still do now, but it was worse when I was younger. And he's like, people don't change unless there isn't pain.
Right, right.
So what he did, he was like, associate something that's painful to biting your nails. And sometimes you can create the pain instead of it actually being painful. So what I did is that every time I would go to bite my nails, I would do something that would make me humiliated, that would be painful. So I would scream the word pineapple. All right. So every time I go to bite my nails, I committed to like every time I go to bite my nails and I bit it, I would have to scream pineapple out loud, regardless of where I was.
In public.
Public, grocery store, bus. And like I was a very shy person back then. And I still am to a certain extent today. But yeah, I would be in a bus at like 5 a.m. going to work and I would just be like numbingly looking outside and I just bite my nail and I'm like, oh, I have to commit. I'm like, pineapple. And then
Yeah.
people in the bus would turn around. And I was like, I sorry. And it was so humiliating and painful that like every time I went to bite my nail, I was like, damn, I'm not gonna bite my nail because I don't want to scream pineapple right now.
Yeah.
So I self-created the pain and I stopped biting my nails for like many years after that.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it's the first time that I was successful at doing that. So
So
it was
you
a self-created the pain.
so you were a believer from the beginning.
Oh yeah. And it there's a few other things that like I was able to change like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
but it really sealed the deal for me that that's how I wanted to do it. Because since I was younger, I always had a passion and a desire to help others. I don't know what it is. I was just born with it. I just really want to help people. Every time I read something, I wanted to know how can I help someone else with that.
Right.
I wouldn't even go like, how do I help myself with this? The first thought was like, how do I help others with that? And as I got older, that desire got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what I was saying about like a month ago. Something happened that I was like, I want to study to do the Tony Robbins certification because I wanted to do it in the past, but I didn't have the money and I didn't have the time. And now because the businesses are doing well and I manage my time a lot better. I have the time and I have the money, but I still had a hard time paying for it. And so I talked with my coach. I'm like, dude, there's this freaking resistance. Like, why am I not able to just like I don't have any issues doing it?
Right.
And then it was my fear of like stepping into who I've always wanted to be. So we kind of worked through that a little bit. I bought the course and I've been studying and it's been freaking amazing. And then we did UPW, Unleash the Power Within, last week. It was 4 days of like 12 to 14 hours a day. And that really sealed the deal extra for me. And I think you fell in love with the process too.
I did. And I really, want to continue that journey with you. But so that's how it took you to the Maxim Seguin and you finalized the whole thing, I think last week, right? This
Yeah.
is it.
Yeah. So UPW really made me confront the things that I've been wanting to do, but I was too scared to do. And then I was like, there's so many amazing people that I have access to that don't want to jump on my other podcast because it says fit vegan and they're not vegan and don't want to associate with their brand, which like I understand that. I would never jump on a podcast. It's like the carnivore diet. Like I
Right.
wouldn't, even though they would want to have me on for like mindset, I still wouldn't jump on. So I get it. So I figured I just use my name because it's pretty neutral. No one else is going to use it. And then I can talk to everyone and provide as much value as possible to everyone. So that's why
So,
we're here.
yeah. So you actually answered my second and maybe even third question. It's basically how did you come up with the concept for the new show and also what sets it apart from your previous podcast. So now it's kind of clear that the last one is more of like the vegan practice.
Yeah.
And this one, like you said, will cover everything else, even for non-vegan, correct? So it's
Yeah.
more mindset, health, nutrition, fitness, everything you can
Business.
possibly think of. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many more areas to life than just fitness and nutrition. And
Right.
ultimately, Fit Vegan Podcast will always live. I'm always going to have the interviews for like our success stories from our members on there. Because people love those. It's like to have like 10 times the amount of listens as the other one does. And I want to keep educating people on that front. But I just know that there's more areas that are important to life than just fitness and nutrition, which is the foundation to everything else. That's why I like it. But there's so many other things that I want to talk about. And so I felt limited. I don't like limitations.
You know,
No.
but also, as I recall, you wanted this one because not only like the fit vegan, a lot of people that are already vegan or plant-based are listening to that, but you want to encourage the also maybe 50, 60, 80% plant-based
Hmm.
to maybe consider the whole food plant-based. So it's kind of like, you know, it's a good kind of transition too for other people if they get encouraged by you on this and just like seeing the good that you do for the world and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that was the transition we made when we came back from Cabo. So for people listening, we went to Cabo, Mexico. So I can propose to Ivy. Show that ring. You can look at that ring. Um, so I took a week off of business and everything, and then I had time to like reflect on how things are going and the changes we wanted to make. And then you brought up some interesting point. The team brought up some interesting point, and ultimately realized that I don't need vegans to be more vegan. I want people to eat more plant based. And so the word vegan, unfortunately, has built that negative connotation throughout the years. That when I say the word vegan, people that are interested to plant based, like, oh no, I want nothing to do with this, right? I just want to eat more plant based. I'm like, well, the name is fit vegan, but like, we'll help you eat more plant based.
Yeah.
So it's like had its limitations. Yeah.
Yeah. So this way you reach out to more audience. And also, I know that you are such a big believer when it comes to like business mindset and all that stuff. So it doesn't have anything to do with what you eat. So, being in this podcast, I'm sure you'll be contributing a lot more of that, and you'll have like amazing guests that will contributing to the audience. So, my next question is, how did you come up with the name? It's pretty obvious, but I know we had like so much
I
brainstorming.
want to thank my parents for for giving me this name.
A great
Right.
name.
But ultimately we brainstormed for a long time on how I would name the second podcast.
Right.
All right. There was so many names out there, but ultimately whatever name I found that was like really cool, other people had a version of it. And I was like, well, I don't want to like fall under the categories of those like other people and what they're doing. I was like, I'm just gonna use my name because no one will ever be able to like be me. So I might as well just be me. That was a big realization from UPW was my fear of stepping into being me fully. So me owning the name of the podcast and being like, fuck it, like I am me. That's who I'm showing up as. And which you guys will discover if you listen to the Fit Vegan podcast. I realized this past weekend, Tony Robbins, I've been playing life at like 20%, and I've accomplished some amazing freaking things living life at 20%. But now I'm ready to go 100%. And in this podcast, you guys will discover how freaking nuts I am. How disciplined and yeah, I'm intense.
He is very intense.
Intensely passionate.
Don't let this good looking boy next door fool you. His pretty intense. No excuses and execute.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty great. And I like the Maxine Seguin podcast. It's original and authentic you.
Mm-hmm.
So can you describe your ideal listener for this new podcast?
Yeah, it's a great question. Someone that wants more out of their life. I think that's the simplest way to put it, right? Whatever area it is that you want to improve, if you're not there already, right? Like that great exercise we did is rate a scale of like of 1 to 10, 10 being like you're exactly where you want to in your life, and then 1 being like you're as far as possible from it.
Right.
In the area of like fitness, health, relationship, business, mindset, career, all that fun stuff. We all have areas that we want to improve, and so I want this podcast to be about like helping everyone get to a 10 as close as possible into all of those other areas. There's areas for me like health and fitness, I was like on a 9.5. I was like, that's the one area that I've mastered
Right.
in my life over and over for the past 18 years. But then there's other areas where I'm like an 8 or a 7 or a 6 or a 5. And so selfishly, I want to interview people in those areas so that I can improve,
Right.
but also be able to provide that value for others that ultimately just want more out of life. Yeah.
So what do you think the main goal is for this podcast, and like what's the mission?
Value, 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 value. All right. So I have my own internal mission, which we read at the beginning of every single team meeting, which I want to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and disease proof their bodies on plants by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. All right. So you guys know a little bit of my story. We can dive into it later. I lost my ex-partner to the breast cancer. A lot of it was lifestyle related. I lost my grandfather to cancer as well. It was lifestyle related. So 2 things that could have prevented that is nutrition and an active lifestyle. And so that's why I do the work that I do. So that's a big part of the mission. And this is just being added to it to help fulfill that mission ultimately.
Do you have like guests or topics you have in mind that you're super excited about that you can never have in the other Fit Vegan podcast that now you can?
I'm not going to say any names, because some of them didn't want to come on the other show because of the name. So that would be disrespectful. But I have some great people coming. And again, I love all of them. They're great. It's just, yeah. I'm not going to say any name.
How about topics? What is it
Oh,
that you've always
oh,
wanted to talk about?
for sure, mindset, business,
Right.
money, like how to get out of debt. I recently paid off all of my debt that I've had for several years through bad investments, shit ton of cancer treatments that I had to pay, and I recently paid off all of it. Um, in September,
Yeah,
I think of last year.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm finally officially debt free. And so I have some great people that helped me accomplish that. I would like to have my I didn't ask him yet, so he's not a part of the list of people that want to come on. But my personal coach for Tony Robbins, call him. Awesome, man. I would love to have him on the podcast. So yeah, ton of great people coming.
Which is interesting because you've never seen Column.
Yeah, I've never seen Colin. So yeah, Tony Robbins coaching, how it works basically is just phone calls. There's no Zoom. When we work with our members, we do Zoom. But yeah, for them it's just phone call because they're trained to listen. And honestly, it's been super powerful. But I've seen Colin. I like look him up on Instagram.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, yeah. I looked him
Okay.
up. Yeah.
So you cheated. You
I was like,
actually saw it.
who am I working with? I paid a lot of money for that year. I was like, I want to know who I'm working with.
Oh, yeah, that's good. So we look forward to having Column.
Yeah, we're gonna meet him once we go to the events.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, that's all great. And then, so I guess what I can ask you about learning, what you learned from your previous podcast, right? I mean, it's still current, but this is just your second baby right now. What are what were the challenges from the previous one that you learned a lot from that you'll be applying to this one, to the new one?
I don't think there was any challenges, to be honest. I, you know how I am. I just execute. I don't think too much of the process. Like podcast is pretty straightforward, and you guys will see that I'm a very logistical person. How I make my decision. So I see podcasts as like working out. If I just show up consistently and provide value, it's gonna grow. So if I just show up consistently for the gym and I don't overthink of it, or I don't like constantly think of it, because if I'm in the gym and I'm focusing on like, oh, are my biceps getting bigger? Or I was like, or is this getting bigger? You never see me worrying about that stuff. I'm like, I'm getting thicker. I like it. But I'm never like, oh, my quads grew by 2 inches or whatever. I never worry about it.
Yeah, you
because
don't obsess over it.
I know that just doing the daily action repeatedly over, eventually something going to happen that's positive because I'm showing up.
Right.
So it was the same thing for Fit Vegan, right? We grew to like 73,000 listeners actively right now. And that was just from like posting once or twice a week. So I don't worry about it. I just show up and do the action because I know consistency compounds and I can't lose if I just show up.
So for this podcast, what do you think the most impact that you will have for your listeners?
Well, so here's my hope. Providing value is one of them. But one big thing I've learned in my life, and that's why I'm a master implementer now at this point in my life. I was super lazy and a procrastinator before. I could read everything I want. I could listen to all the courses, buy all the courses. And if I didn't do jack shit with the information, nothing would change in my life. I would just know a lot of things, but nothing would actually change. That's when my original mentor said, like, you're making all these great videos, but like take your own medicine, meaning watch the video, do what you say you're going to do in it. It's actually something that I did. I filmed a lot of videos on YouTube and then I stopped for a year and I watched the video and I implemented what I said in the video and my life changed. And I watched my second video and I did what I said in the video. I would implement it. So my hope with these podcasts is we provide you tangible, valuable lessons, tactics, strategies, or tools, and we can get you guys to implement them and follow up on these things. Because I know too many people that read all the self-development books, they read all the nutrition books and websites, watch all the YouTube videos. They're still overweight, they're still miserable, they're still unfit, they're still broke. And ultimately it just comes from implementing.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to provide value in a way that will make it easy for people to implement.
Well, I'm hoping that also people do listen to you because if you know Maxim, he's an action taker. So if you just like follow him, and it's very inspiring, and he makes me do things that I thought I wasn't going to or be able to. So I advise all of you to just like listen and like really pay attention to what he says because I'm a believer and I'm a very routine person. Like I'm so used to habits as well. Well, my own habits, not very good ones. So you actually change a lot of that, and I am grateful for you.
Oh, I'm proud of you because you made a lot of changes since we met.
Yeah, I didn't listen to your podcast though. I mean, I did some of them, but just being around you and listening to you was
Yeah, you get first world experience. You're living. You have to deal with me every day.
great. You're so funny. All right, so something fun. If your podcast, I saw this question, I thought it was interesting, was a superhero, who would that be?
Does it have to be like a Marvel
No,
comic? No.
it'd be anything.
My podcast would be a superhero. It would be whatever version of me in the future has the life that I want. Yeah. So it'd be future me. That's what I would say.
What special skills, talent, magic that it would have?
Just to still have a heart to serve people and help people at a bigger scale. It has a lot more skills to be able to do that. Because just studying from Tony, like when I see him in now that I'm learning what he's doing and I see him in action, I'm like, damn, that's implemented so beautifully that if when I try to do it, it's really clunky and I'm like, oh, what for this question? And I kind of get stuck. So to have the level of skill and knowledge where I can make things look so easy when I'm helping someone transform, and ultimately have a great relationship, have a great life where I'm happy, and ultimately when I'm fulfilled is a
Right.
big thing. So fulfillment will come from contribution and growth. Um, yeah, so there's that future version of me that I have in my head. When we do our priming, so Ivy and I do priming exercises in the morning and it's gratefulness exercise and visualization, like that visualization for the future, like
Right.
who I am in that position is my superhero, if you will.
Yeah, I think that'll be a very interesting topic to actually discuss in your Maxime Seguin as well. Like all the mindset and, how you actually hype up yourself in the beginning of the day as a routine type thing. So that'd be
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, nice cold shower to kick it off.
um, so with this podcast, who is like, if you have one person that could be like your number one guest, could be like,
Oh, Tony, of course, Tony Robbins. Yeah, I'm coming
hi,
for you.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony Robbins. Well, so I want to talk about this on this podcast, but so Tony Robbins is there's multiple ways to kind of be a part of his world. One of them is obviously going through the events. The level up is to hire one of his coaches. And then the ultimate level is to hire him. But like I said, it's $1 million and there's a 7-year waiting list. But he has a platinum membership, which is like Canadian over 6 figures per year to join.
Wow.
And you get access to all of his events. You get a coach, and there's 3 trips per year where you get to meet him. That's my next investment, and which we talked about.
And I get
It's
to go.
scary. It's scary, but ultimately, I know that if I'm around him, I can't lose, and that investment will pay off by itself. And that I'll get to meet him. Ultimately, I don't think I would ever like freak out meeting someone. I think that's the one person that I would be like, oh shit, it's Tony Robbins.
You're a big fan. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
from being 15 to where you are now, you actually dedicate a lot of that to Tony and
yeah,
his teaching. So, yeah, I can imagine he's like your hero at this point, right?
yeah. Great questions, baby.
I'm trying. So, like with this podcast as well, um, there's so many people launching their own podcasts, right? Same thing, mindset, business, relationship, nutrition, and so on and so on. So saturated,
Mm-hmm.
and people don't know who to listen to. So why should they listen to you? What sets you apart from the rest of the same kind of mindset people or whatever topics that they have?
Great question. Time to sell myself. So I'll go into a little bit into my story to kind of show where I came from, because ultimately I think that's the part that most people can relate to. Um, Ideally, you want to listen to someone that has accomplished a thing that you want to accomplish, right? So let's just say that there's 20 levels to life. There's people that are level like 18 and 19. I would consider myself maybe at a level like 9. I've done a lot of things in my life that a lot of people dream to accomplish. And so I can help people that are below a 9, right? And there's obviously people that are above me that are far more ahead in their skills and in their
Yeah,
lifestyle. Those are the people that I'd like to have on the show so that I can obviously share with everyone, but also so that I can learn as well. Because I understand that the more I learn, the more I implement, the more I'm going to grow, which is a
right.
huge value for me to grow. So what makes me different? Like, I don't know. I had my moments in life where I slept in a car. I ate at food banks. I was dead and broke. Like I was 60K in debt, right? That's what I paid off like a few months ago. Um, yeah, slept in my car, ate at food bank, and obviously with my ex-partner was going through cancer and spent a lot of money on treatments. It was a 5-year journey. So I've been through the ringer when it came to being a caregiver and emotionally and psychologically. I hitchhiked around Canada, United States, slept in tents and park benches and
Yeah.
strangers' house, and yeah, kind of been through through the ringer for the past like 15 years pretty much. Cause I yeah,
And you're
a
so
lot
lucky.
a lot of travel and lucky, yeah, because that was my nickname for a long time.
All right. Want to tell them about that story?
Yeah. So when I left home, most people go into like, oh, I'm moving to an apartment in like the coolest city near me. And I was like, I am selling everything and I am hitchhiking in Alberta. I'm from Quebec, so like literally across Canada. I'm hitchhiking and I'm moving into it with a friend. I'm just gonna figure it out. That's what I did. And so yeah, I went to Alberta with a friend, had a friend there, and then realized that my uncle lived there and I completely forgot about it. And then he's like, man, you can come and work with me in construction and live with me. So I was like,
Right.
I did. And so on the weekends, what I would do is I would hitchhike to like Banff or Jasper and all those cool places in Alberta. And one day I was in a hostel in Banff, and I was reading my Bible at the hostel. And then the guy came to talk to me. He's like, "Oh, what are you reading?" I was like, "Oh, the Bible." He's like, "Oh, cool, man." And we started talking, and his name is Florian. So that's how I met
Oh,
Flo.
one of your best
Yeah,
friend.
one of my great friends,
Mhm.
awesome entrepreneur in Germany, which is crazy because we were both hippies back then, but he's crushing in business now. Um, yeah, so we became friends. He wanted to buy like a car because he wanted to do a road trip. Because Germany is cool. So in Germany, you don't pay for university, like it's
Yeah.
free.
Free
So
education.
your parents don't save money for you to go to school. For him, they saved money for him to travel the world and experience
Oh.
life. So he's just sitting on a ton of money. And so he's like, I'm buying a car so I can do a road trip. And he's like, I don't know cars here. I'm like, oh, I know cars. So I went shopping with him. We bought a Dodge Caravan. We threw away the back seat. We put a mattress in the back, and I traveled with him for like a few months. At
Wow.
night, we would put all our bags in the front, we'd sleep in the back, and then in the day, we'd put our bags in the back and we drive and we just travel all of Alberta. We did all of BC. That was the first time ever I came to Vancouver. So his name was Florian, and then his nickname was Flo. His hippie name was Flo. He's like, man, we need to come up with a name for you. And my whole philosophy at the time was, you get what you put out into the world.
Right.
And so I was like always lucky. Like from hitchhiking to meeting the right people at the right time to everything
Yeah.
just working out perfectly. Dude, you're so lucky. He's like, that should be the nickname. I was like, great, my nickname's Lucky now. And so after that, when I traveled, I always used Lucky. It served as a form of protection as well when I was hitchhiking, so people didn't have my real name.
Right.
And then after traveling for all of BC, went to Vancouver Island, did the whole trip. I got a contract to go model in Milan, Italy.
Mhm.
So when I went to Milan, Italy, I was like, well, I'm just gonna start the Lucky brand. And so I started a blog and I
We're
tell
not
people,
talking about the clothing company, right?
no.
No affiliation
I
whatsoever.
started a blog called Lucky Lifestyle,
Right.
but it was Lucky at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, it needs to be unique. So I did IE because my name is Maxim, ends with E. So I was like Lucky, Luckie. And so I would introduce myself as Lucky, the
Oh wow.
casting agents and all that. And I was like, I'm just gonna stick with it and build a brand out of this. And I was like 7, 8 years ago
Sounds like
that I started that.
lifetime now.
Yeah, it's so far ago. And I kept that name for like 6, 7 years.
Okay.
Right? Like I would
So you
introduce
became
myself as
lucky.
Lucky. Yeah, I just introduced myself as Lucky for a long time, and I built. You ask anyone in Vancouver, most people that will see me like that's Lucky, right? And have to train themselves to say my real name now.
Yeah, and this is actually interesting. When did you transition back to Maxine and why?
Yeah.
Because
So
now,
that was like a few days. That was in a few days. I transitioned back to my real name like a few days before I met you.
yeah, so this was
Because you texted me Lucky on
lucky.
Instagram, right? And I was like, no, it's Maxim, my name. You're
Right.
the first person I corrected because I just started to change it. So I went for Lucky for a long time. And then the story is like when my ex-partner passed away, um, I went into my healing journey. I went to like Mexico to spread her ashes, and then I ended up in LA. But I was still like grieving and a lot of pain.
Mhm.
So someone told me about doing a mushroom and MDMA ceremony, right? Just say those are the things I don't share on the other podcast, so you guys get exclusive. That a mushroom MDMA ceremony is my first one ever, and it's probably my last one I'm gonna do. But it was such a powerful experience for me. There was so much things that happened in that ceremony alone. It lasted like 11 hours.
That's
I didn't
intense.
even feel like it lasted 11 hours. It was a crazy experience. And when I came out of it, it was just like everything was gone, like a
Right.
release gone. I shed everything. But a big part of it is I was in there and I was like, realized that I didn't give myself a lot of self love for a long time. And so I was just like, I was high, but I was trying to talk to myself of like, Lucky, you did a good job,
Mhm.
being there and doing all that stuff. And every time I would say lucky, it just felt like I was hitting metal. It's just a sound of metal, like if I were to knock on some metal.
It
And it's
didn't feel right
like I
anymore.
couldn't
Yeah.
connect with it. And I was like, the fuck's not connecting? I was like, I'm just trying to be nice to myself and I'm not taking it. So I was like, it's okay. Like you did a good job. That was tough. Like you put through it. And then I just couldn't connect. I was like, well, let me just try my name. And then Maxim. And then it's like overall, like huge feeling of like love and warmth. And my whole body felt connected. And I was like, oh, so I kept using the name Maxim. And I realized that I had built Lucky to be this armor of protection of the guy that needed to be strong because his partner was sick. He needed to provide. He needed to step up. And so Lucky was like, it's a funny analogy, but there's Dwayne Johnson and The Rock,
Yeah.
right? So Lucky was The Rock. It was the showmanship part of like everything's okay. I got this. And then Dwayne Johnson was like Maxim. I was like, oh, like this is the real me. So after that ceremony, I was like, I need to shed Lucky. Like I don't need this version of me anymore. So I reverted back to my legal name. And so when we met, I think my handle was like Lucky Lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it was because I did call you Lucky. And
Yeah. And I corrected you by text. I remember that. I
yeah.
was like, no, it's Maxim. And then, yeah, that's kind of how I changed it. Like maybe a few weeks after my ceremony happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty weird when you meet your friends here now or from the past and they
Yeah.
call you Lucky. And I was like, it's Lucky.
Yeah.
Like, what? His name's Maxime.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah. It was a crazy experience. Life.
So I guess like for this podcast, we want to know who you really are, which you've shared so many like memories from the past and how you came to this. So what's the bigger goal for you? I've interviewed you on your podcast for Fit Vegan, but for the new followers and audience that you have here, um, what is it that you want to share with them as far as like, hey, this is me now and this is where I want to go?
Yeah. You're a great question. I'm trying to simplify it because I tend to complexify things. The simplest form is to try to get as close to the superpower that I would like to have.
Okay.
That superpower is if I had the ability to like snap my fingers and make you have that moment that you have cancer or you had a heart attack, but without actually experiencing the pain and the consequences of having that news, that moment is so painful that you would feel like you're forced to change. Because when you get diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, whatever big thing happened, you're like, fuck, I need to change something about my life. So if there's one superpower I could have is that, because I really, really love helping people live to their fullest potential and live life fully. And ultimately, pain is the biggest driver for most people. So if I could snap my fingers, make you realize that moment without actually having the pain and
Mhm.
consequence from it, then that would be the ultimate thing for me. I don't want to fly. I don't want to be super strong, whatever. I don't want any of that. So obviously I can't have that superpower, but the closest thing I can have is through studying psychology and the people that are the best in the world at what they do and shifting other people. And Tony is one of those best ones, right? Tony, by continuing to study with him and under him and or continue to study all the material, I want to get as close as possible to having that power so that I can ultimately help people change. Like I don't know why it makes me emotional too. Like I really want to help people live fully. I don't want people to be sick. I don't want people to like just be limited in their head into the things that they want to accomplish, that they like the dreams that they want. It just frustrates the shit out of me. Right. Like it's
Why
making
is
me
that?
emotional. I don't know. I told you this when we were in Big Bear,
Yeah.
right? I was like, I just feel um weird. I use the word weird often, but I just feel like it's just there. It's a part of me and I can't get rid of it. I've tried to push it down because it hurts sometimes to care so much for other people, but it just keeps coming back up and I can't get rid of it. So I just realized that I have to embrace it. Like I really want to help people, and so I just have to embrace it because it's not going away. It's not going any away.
That's really interesting what you said, that from the pain is when the changes happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're forced to. What was that moment for you? Because obviously you're not teaching something you didn't practice. So what was that pain that make you change and force you to be this, Maxine?
I think it was a one moment. I think it was a combination of multiple moments.
Mm.
Um, yeah, like almost taking my life away when I was younger. There's many other life experiences that I
Uh,
won't share on this podcast because those are like, you know, some of them, but some are like really, really personal. But yeah, I think it's an accumulation of everything, and every single one that happened, I was forced to like grow and adapt out of it, or else I would just stay in that depressed state and I didn't want to live there. So it's like, how do I conquer that? How do I conquer that? And then as I gone through life, like life just kicks you in the nuts sometimes, and like, oh, I have to deal with this now. And
yeah.
as you just kind of grow and evolve, and it's the accumulation and all of these things. And ultimately, the last big one was obviously going through cancer and
Mm.
Jen passing away and recovering from it. That was the last biggest one that I was like the most growth, because
Right.
I was 22 when I entered that, and I was a kid. I was freaking backpacking, sleeping on couches, very selfish, master procrastinator. Like if me from at 22 met me now, I'd be like, who the fuck are you? Like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But it really forced me to grow because I had to. It taught me to be selfless. It taught me to be very proactive and efficient, and because without action, nothing would change. So yeah,
Yeah.
just accumulation.
And I give you credit for being so young yet so mature. And trust me, he is. I've met so many people and not even like close to you as far as maturity within your age. So I truly believe all your experiences contributed to who you are now. And you're an amazing individual with so much more to give. So I really will support you and be your number one fan no matter what.
Thank you. I love you.
I love
And you
you.
have been since we've been together.
So thank you. Appreciate that. You're making me cry.
We're
Yeah, I need to drink water. Don't include this.
matching water bottles.
We're so extra.
Yeah. Need glass water bottles.
Oh yeah, I like this one. Actually has like the time and
Mhm.
motivate you to drink more water. All right. Now come to the lighter stuff. If your podcast is a dessert, I saw this question. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of dessert would it be?
If it was a dessert.
Yeah, I love food. You know, we both like
Yeah, we
sweets.
like food a lot. I don't know. Probably like a vegan pastry or some sort. I like vegan pastry. Like a blueberry scone of some sort. I think typical answer would be like an ice cream, but I like my blueberry
Why?
turnover.
Why is that your podcast?
Why
An
is my
ice cream.
podcast?
You're like, there's no association
There's actually no.
whatsoever.
I would be
He
making
just
up an
likes
answer.
it.
I would be making something up.
I
I don't
was
know.
expecting more like if I had a podcast, it would be like a creme brulee. You know, it's like sweet and smooth.
That's an odd question.
And you just want more of it. Like, come on. Okay, didn't work. Next. So do you have a teaser for your next episode? Can you give us a little sneak peek?
Well, the next episode will probably be a solo episode, genuinely, just because of time wise. Because for if you guys are listening to this episode, it's coming out on Thursday, last week of March. We're literally moving to another country in like 5 days. So it'll probably be a solo episode,
Okay.
just to dive deeper into some core concepts that I'm learning. And then the next one will probably have a guest on. I'm still working on it. Right. I'm running
I
three
have ideas.
companies, 2 podcasts, YouTube channel. There's a lot happening, so I have no idea yet. I have to look at my schedule.
Okay, so like tell our audience what is it that they have to look forward to and like this will be full of it for the next 100 episodes.
A lot of valuable information that you can implement. Right. I don't want to talk about things that are too far out in terms of concepts that you won't be able to grasp them, that you won't be able to implement in your life. All right. So I'm always going to teach theory and then give a practical thing that you can implement after. Because I tell this to every single one of our group calls for our members. I shared some cool shit today, but none of it's going to change your life unless you do something with it. So pick one thing that you learned from the call and then implement it today. Yeah.
That's great. So where can they see, can they start subscribing to your podcast now? Is it
Yeah. So if they listen to this episode, they can just subscribe on this page. It'll be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I have one YouTube channel and it's just my name, Maxime Sigouin. So I will post the videos on there. And you'll also be able to see Ivy and I's vlog that we do on a weekly, bi-monthly basis.
all
Depends how
right?
busy we are. And then the podcast episodes for Fit Vegan will also be on my YouTube channel as well. So YouTube channel, you'll just have everything on there. And I'm also documenting on YouTube my journey to speed reading.
Oh yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good one.
because I bought the course from Jim Quick, which is one of like the best at that. So just learning how to speed read because I want to be able to get more information in so I can implement more and then I can just become better. And so I think I went from like I was like 180 words or 200 words per minute, and then this morning I did 370 words per minute.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy,
That's
right? And
pretty
that's
good.
with full comprehension too.
Right. Not
Yeah.
just reading, you actually understood what you read.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just making a video a day per lesson that I learned that they share. So if you guys want that, it's also available on YouTube.
And it's for free.
Yes. I paid for it, but you guys get it for free. Right? Like talking about that. Like that's why I have multiple mentors in my life. And that's why I tell my members that it's such a great investment to work with us. Number one, because we're one of the best ones in the world when it comes to whole food plant-based body recomposition. And second, you want a coach that invests in himself. I know so many coaches and trainers that are like, don't need to study. I don't need to read. I'm like, well, you're gonna suck, right? If you don't grow, you're dying, right? And so if you're not continuously learning, like things are changing, you have to continue learning. So I have several mentors in my life, and I have a financial mentor. I have a coach for training and nutrition. I have my business coach. I have my, I say life coach. We talk of like columns. So I have like 4 coaches in my life. And so when I invest in a mentor, I look if that mentor is investing in himself to become better. Because as an example, when members invest into our coaching program, they get what I am investing in as well, right? I invest over 6 figures a year in mentors.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't start off at that. I was making $12,000 a year before I went into business, right? I was 12K a year. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, that was not a lot of money working at a smoothie bar. But now I invest over 6 figures a year in mentors. All the information I get, I give to my members.
For no charge.
Yeah, it's a part of working with us. So when I work with a mentor and this mentor is investing in other people, he's teaching things that he's learning from them. So I'm getting way more value than what I'm paying for. So you want to make sure you're finding someone that's like investing in himself.
So
right?
that's actually what sets you apart from most of these people because they teach what they learn, but just throughout life, right? While as for you, you actually share what you learn from the best of the best. So by watching you and just listening to you, it's just a great value. It's like something for free. Like it's just like having Tony mentoring you because that's what you're getting, right? And you're sharing as well. So if you guys are smart, like I'll just go and listen because it's like speeding up the process and saving you a lot of money.
Yeah. I want to add 2 things to that. So I'm the guy that when I go to a store, I ask for where the thing is instead of looking for where the thing is. Because why someone knows how to do it. Why do I need to figure it out? Why do I need to waste time walking like all the house? Right.
Right.
So same thing for coaching. Why do I need to reinvent the wheel? Someone has done all the really stupid mistake. I spent all the money learning these things. I can just pay someone and get my track instead of being 10 years will be 2 years to get to where I want to. And instead of costing me like $500,000 in mistake, it can cost me like $50,000 in mistake.
Yeah.
Because this person made all mistake. Like, why do I need to reinvent the wheel? One thing I want to notice, because I've shared this online before, that I invested over 6 figures in coaches per year. People got upset.
Oh, why
because they're like, not everyone has 6 figures to invest in a mentor. Listen, I'm gonna be upfront with you. If you're upset by that, don't listen to this podcast because you're just gonna be upset every single fucking episode, right? You need to have a growth mindset. You need to be inspired by the story, not just like beaten down by it. I started off by going to the library and renting books because I didn't have any money to buy books. I would read the book, I would implement it, I would make a little bit of money. Then I got money and I could buy the books.
Right.
And I bought the books and I would reread them. And then I made a little bit more money. And then I bought the course.
Yeah.
And then from the course, I learned and I rewatched them and I made a little bit more money. Then I hired the coach. I built my way up to be in this position. So if someone said, well, I don't have this much money to invest, start with where you're at. And if it upset you, you need to look internally, right? You need to be inspired, not demotivated by this, because all that shit's possible. I was sleeping on park benches, eating at freaking food banks.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not special. I'm a lazy procrastinator that just was crazy enough to just keep showing up ultimately. So
it's a lesson learned. Just show up.
Yeah, just show up and don't give up. Like there's so many times I could have given up. So many times I could have given up, man. I have my moments in my car where I was in Montreal and I was there when I was modeling. I remember that day because I told myself that I was gonna have so much fucking money one day that I would never have to deal with this. And I was sleeping in a friend's house because there's a lot of castings happening, and I just wasn't getting jobs. And then I come out in the morning and my bank account's at like minus 200. I had no money, right? That's why I'm trying to get those gigs. And I think I sold an iPod to get the gas to drive to Montreal to go to those castings.
Wow.
And then I get a parking ticket that ate more than the rest of the money that I had. And I was on my car and I was so upset and I was crying. I was like, fuck, like I just need a break. And that was like almost like 10 years ago.
And look at you now.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's why I want I told my parents to send me the Awaken the Giant Within book, because I wrote in it the exercises like, where do you want your life to be in like 10 years and how do you want your life to look like, blah blah blah. If I remember correctly, I've surpassed what I wrote in that book.
It's amazing. I really want to see that book.
Yeah, well, my parents to like find it and ship it to me because it's somewhere in their house.
And so basically you want to teach your audience how to be resourceful, right? Because that's what you did. Yeah. And like, I believe if you guys just, listen and learn as much as you can from Maxime, it's one way of being resourceful, and you don't have to really take the whole mentorship if you can afford it, obviously, but you can get value, and so much value that you can work yourself way up there.
Yeah. And I don't hold back on what I share on here. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to share all the cool stuff with you because you're not working with me directly. Like, I like helping people, so I share all the cool stuff for free every time, everywhere.
You overshare, actually.
I overshare. Yeah, exactly, because I want everyone to succeed ultimately, right? You talk about being resourceful. So I don't know if there's any French listeners, or I'm French, so you guys that didn't know. So my dad, when I grew up, when I couldn't do something, I couldn't find something, he always told me, utilise le système D.
What's that mean?
Débrouillard.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Yeah. So he's like, use so it's a translation. If you're French, you're gonna understand what I'm saying, but it's like, use the R system.
Okay.
Be resourceful. That's what he would tell me.
That's straightforward.
Yeah. So it was D, but débrouillard. But débrouillard doesn't work in English. So that's what he would tell me. Like, we were in the garage trying to fix something. I'm like, damn, I don't know how to do this. I don't know where to find this thing. It's like, STEM date. All right. Like our system, like figure it out.
Yeah. I think that's a great system to have, because that's what life is all about. Throws you like all curveballs, and you just got to figure it out.
Yeah. I love people are there's such a lack of resourcefulness when all the resources are more available than ever. Yeah. I had someone ask me, how do I build this funnel this way and connect this way? I was like, I don't know. I go on YouTube and I literally type the question he asked, and there's a freaking training video on it. I'm like, watch this video. I'm like, you could have done that.
I like that he says some person, because he tells me that.
Well, I tell you, but there's so many people on the team too. Like, how do I do this? And like, just YouTube it. I don't have it's not the best use of my time to tell you how to do this really small thing. You can YouTube it. There's a video on
my resources is him, so I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm a lot of people's resources. And people ask me shit, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go on YouTube, find the answer, and then tell them. But I'm like, you can just watch the video yourself.
Yeah, no, but I think it's smart. Like if they really want to learn and do the shortcut, I think having access to all your social media is a shortcut, because you learn so much so fast, and you've done it. Like what you learned from Tony, you model, right?
Yeah.
So.
And my fitness coaches, my nutrition coaches, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great podcast. We
Well, it's
look
already happening. We're recording right now.
this is the best one yet. Um, you're gonna make history, and hopefully, you'll be the next Tony Robbins. At least
Yeah.
that's your dream, right?
Yeah. I'm the next Tony Robbins. Well, I want to do what he does at that big of a scale with my own version of it. Because
Right,
Tony and I have a very different background. We have a very different reason as to why we want to do the things that we want to do.
right.
For me, it's cancer, right? We talked about each other starting our own nonprofit. And so yeah, different mission, but very similar journey.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. You spoke about podcast topics, which is one of them is business. So, being a business person yourself, an entrepreneur, and having Fit Vegan as your first company, right? Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
To where you have multiple now.
First successful. First successful one.
Okay.
Yeah.
First successful. So you've tried before
Yeah.
other ones. First successful. So tell us your journey from your very first successful business, which is the Fit Vegan, to where you are now, which I believe you have multiple and also 6, 7 figures.
Yeah, around there. Yeah, that's some numbers, but yeah, so how I started Fit Vegan is it was at a time where yes, my ex-partner was going through cancer. I had a corporate job and they were really bad with money. I have no idea how they made it this long in business. But I was the last person hired and they made bad investments and they're like, we're running out of money. And so exactly when I came back from the Christmas season, like a month or two before COVID happened, came back for my Christmas holiday and I get into the office. I work 3 days and then I go to log in because I was doing social media and a bunch of things and I'm logged out of everything. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
what's happening? It's my first corporate job ever in my life. I've never had a corporate job before. And then they bring me in. They're like, hey man, like we have to let you go because like we're running out of money and you're the last person hired. I was like, I'm one of the best employees here. I'm doing so much
All
work.
right.
And then I'm like, well, I have like partner, I got cancer treatments to pay. I had a company car. Without that, I have no car. And so like, we're sorry, man. It just is what it is. And I was so upset. And it was like a movie because they walked me to my office. Like I don't know, they were scared for me to do something stupid. I'm like, I'm better than that. But they gave me a box and I put all my things and like everyone's looking and I'm walking out with my box. I was like in a movie. I was like, man, this is where my life changes. That's what's in my head. I was like, wow, this is where my life changes. This is great.
Right.
Um, and the my sales director was the president of the building I lived in, Rick.
Yeah.
And so he drove me home because it's where he lives. He's like, hey man, he's like, don't worry about it. Like you're much better off not working there, and like you have it in you to do something great. And he was like, Rick changed my life in how he viewed me and how he spoke to me when I was working there when I was let go. And I was using the word fired. He's like, you didn't get fired, you got let go. It's different. Fired is you were a bad employee. You just got let go, man, because they were being done with money.
Right.
And so I got home and I was like, I don't have a job anymore. I don't have a company car. Like I was screwed. I had the press for like a month. And then I was like, well, I got my certification for personal training. I'm like, let me just go do that. That's the fastest thing I can do now to go and earn some money. So I got a gym. I trained 3 clients at this new gym, and then COVID hit, and all the gyms are shut down.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, dang, man, I just need a break.
Yeah.
And so I get at home, and then I'm like, damn, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to like make money now. I would work 4 jobs, but I can't because everything's shut down. The whole world's on lockdown. And so people were kind of doing like fitness online. I was like, I'm just trying to sell programs. So I would build programs, trying to sell them for cheaper, and like no one would buy them. And then I was like, damn, like how do people do this?
All right.
And so I saw an ad with Vince, my mentor, and it was like, hey, make your first 5 figures a month in online fitness. And I was like, I want that. Like, I need money. I need cancer treatments. I have no money for food. I was literally going to food banks and they give you like a brown bag with the shittiest food in there. It was
Wow.
like Fruit Loops, Spam, like just really terrible processed food. I get it's a helpful thing. It helps people, but I'm vegan and I was like organic vegan. I was like,
You're an expensive.
I'm an expensive vegan, but I suck it in because the only money I had I would give to my ex-partner,
Yeah.
because she needed organic food because she's going through cancer. I was like, I'll eat the freaking Fruit Loops and the shit food
Right.
until I figure things out. So I would eat terrible food just because that's all I could afford. And so I spoke with him on the phone and he was like, hey man, it's this much per year, or you can make monthly payments. And I was like, Vince, I have, and I took a screenshot of my bank account. That's why I got tattooed on my hand. $34.37 in my bank account.
You want to
I'm like,
show them that?
yeah, well, you guys won't be able to see it from here, but I have $34.37 tattooed on inside my finger to remind me to never go back there. But I was like, I don't have more money, man. Rent. I have like 10K of cancer treatments. I have no food. I have
Right.
nothing. And I'm like, can I like give you the $34.37 and then like when I make money, like pay you back? But he's like, no. He's like, if you really want to do this and you're gonna step up as a man, you're gonna find a way. And
Right.
then so like I sat with that for like a few days and I was like, dang, like I don't know how to find like it was $200 for the initial the month thing because it was his low ticket program. And I was like, man, like I don't have $200. Like my credit cards are loaded, all of them. I
Right.
haven't made payments on them for months because I was just like trying to find ways to like sneak in things to pay for treatments. And then I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. After being like 5 days of being depressed, I have nothing to lose. Let me just call up my credit card, be like, hey guys, how are you doing? I was trying to be so nice. And then like, good, thank you. Like no one ever asks us that. So I'm like, awesome. All right. So he's like, I need to purchase something. And it's $200, but like I'm getting paid in like a week. But like I need to buy it now because the deal ends now. Like
Right.
I just need an extension for $200. And then they're like, let me look into this. Like, like, okay, like you had a $200 extension. I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I hung up and I called Vince, my mentor, and I was like, dude, take the money before they change their mind, before they can
So
remove my credit card.
talk about resourceful.
Yeah.
That's very resourceful. Like I
Yeah.
don't think anybody would think like, oh, let me just borrow some more money when
Terrible
you're
credit
maxed out.
score, card loaded. Yeah. Because yeah, it was so expensive that the treatments, but I called Vince like, dude, take the money before they change their mind. And so he charged me $200. He gave me access to all his portal of everything, the information. He's like,
Right.
dude, go literally video one by one, do everything. So I did it. I worked 16 to 18 hours a day,
Wow.
7 days a week for 30 days straight. And I turned that $200 investment into 5 figures in my first month. So
Within the first
10K,
month.
10K plus, yeah,
Oh
my
wow.
first month.
Okay.
And I was like, holy shit, I just made almost as much money as I did in the year before
That's
in my
amazing.
full year.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm a believer. This is great. And so the second month it just grew and it grew and just grew. And it's grown since then. And we're going to celebrate 3 years of being in business in 1 week. Right
Yeah.
on April 1st, we have our event with members. So yeah, that's kind of how it got started, and it kind of just grew from there. But it was like it was a must. I was going to lose my apartment. I had no money for treatments, and I had a lot of them coming up. I had no food. I
Yeah.
was just like, you need to do this. I had the skills, and I just needed someone to tell me how to put it together properly. And then since then, that really showed me the value of having a mentor that's done all the stupid mistakes. Like, dude, I tried all the ways you tried before. They're not gonna work. Try this. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
That's true. You did a shortcut in a smart way.
I bought speed, basically,
Right.
is what it was.
You bought time
Yeah.
and you saved a lot of it and it paid off.
Yeah, big time. Changed my life.
So basically you went through the pain, which is probably like one of the lowest point of your life. So that's great. I mean, that's not great, but at the same time, that's when you come out stronger, right?
Yeah. Well, it made me who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you did the most resourceful way, which is getting your credit card extension
It
for
was a
200 bucks.
godsend. It was a godsend because if this person would have said no, I don't know if I would have found that money elsewhere. Because
Right.
my parents didn't want to loan it to me. I was like,
I,
yeah.
they're like, we don't want to talk about money. But you know what? If it's meant to be, you will be. And I'm a big believer of that. But also, you have to make the path to make things happen for you, right?
Yeah.
So I give you so much credit for giving all you got and like believing in yourself. Like you got to believe in yourself so much that you risk the last 200 bucks you have and hope for the best.
Well, yeah, like it just added to the negative that I was in, basically. Um, yeah, well, one thing I realized at that time was I got like go with my corporate job, and I was like, well, these freaking morons. I put my faith into them, and they're just
Right.
terrible with money, and they made bad moves. And so I'm like, I'm tired of putting my faith in other people's hand because I can work really hard at a job, and they're like, we have to make cuts. Like you're like, go right. And so I was like, I want to have control over my own things. I always was dependent on other people to do a fundraiser for cancer treatments or to like the job or some
Right.
friends that were helping me. And I was like, I hate asking for shit. Right. I want to be in a position where I can just do what I need to do. And so when I signed up with my mentor originally, I was like, all right, great. Now, my success is dependent on my ability to take action
Right.
because I literally have all the information I need in front of me. And if I fail, it's my fault because I didn't implement it. So that was my first like crash course of like, it's in my hands and I have the ability to make it work. And so I just went to town. I worked 17, 18 hours a day for 30 days straight.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the entrepreneur in you though. So
It was
it
survival. It was it wasn't even entrepreneurship at that point. It was survival.
well, okay. So from that survival to being an entrepreneur and like continuing on to grow, can you give the audience that journey and like the best advice and challenges and lesson you've learned throughout that?
Yeah. Well, simplified to its smallest form is the first thing is care for your people and provide more value than everyone else. Right. And continue to improve your program. So our program we have now is top notch. It's honestly one of the best ones in the world when it comes to whole food plant-based body recomposition. There's actually no one else that does what we do. Everyone else that does body recomp is using some form of fake meat or fake vegan product. Everyone else is on the whole food plant-based side is more
Right.
about like health, right? But no one is doing like how do you look great and sexy at the beach and like eat in a way that's disease proofing your body. We're one of the only ones that do that. Um, so the program didn't start off as what it is now. Like it just got better and we took feedback from people and then improved it, feedback and improved it. Like our weekly check-ins was a feedback from a member, how we tweaked it, right? The group call structure was feedback from members. How we structured nutrition was a feedback from members. It would be great if we had 2 meal plans per month, like great 2 meal plans per month and everyone loves it. So we just continue to like take the feedback. Sometimes it hurt, but it was like, cool. Like that's what people want. We need to continue to make it better. And now we have a top-notch program with a freaking doctor of physical therapy, a holistic nutritionist. Like we have an
Okay.
awesome team of people. So provide more value than everyone else, care for your people, and just take the feedback and improve. Right. And continue to grow yourself. To me, that was the biggest thing. If I didn't continue to grow, I would have messed up the whole thing. Right. So as I continue to learn and gain awareness as to what's needed for people to get better transformation, I was like, I don't need a better meal plan. I
Right.
don't need a better training plan because we already like tweaked that for the past 3 years. I'm like, the next step we need to help our members is more psychology, right?
Mindset.
Yeah, because we talked earlier, transformation is 80% psychology, 20% strategy. Like we have some of the best strategies in the world. Like we're good there. Psychology part is like, can we get you to stick to the plan? Can we get you to be
Right.
consistent and to show up and to not self-sabotage and to make the right decisions when you're at restaurants or whatever it may be, or when you're stressed with your food. So now that's what we're putting a bigger emphasis on because we're noticing that that's the missing part um, to having a successful transformation. But it's also set us apart from every other program because other programs are just like stay consistent, build healthy habits. Or like, no, we tangibly go in with you to be like, what's
Right.
the limiting belief? Let's remove it so we can build that habit that's actually sustainable and it actually lasts. So just tweaking over time and providing a lot of value.
And also with your clients, you truly care about them.
They're
It's
my biggest stressor. They're my biggest stressor. When they don't do their workouts, I'm like, just do the workout, please.
yeah, so that's also like, very interesting because you're very hands-on as
Yeah.
much as like it's growing and it's like you don't really have a lot of time now because you're pursuing other things, but you still make sure that you put aside and set aside this time for, the clients and your first successful business, which is the Fit Vegan. So I think
Mm.
that's what separates you from the rest and will continue to give you success because of like you care. Like one
Yeah.
thing is like people know when you don't care, like they can
Yeah.
feel that. And that's basically your audience and your loyal like clients and fans, right?
Yeah.
So actually, I want to know how you felt the first time you made money. It's like the following month from like borrowing $200 to like making what did you make 6 figure the next month or how
No,
much?
no, six figures, 100K plus.
Like five.
We made over 10K for our first month of
Okay.
business. Yeah.
How did that feel?
It's crazy, surreal. I have a photo of me holding my laptop with my sales funnel, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
like a big smile. I think I showed you, right?
Yeah.
I have it framed in my office, that first photo on it, and I wrote every month how much I made every month and all that. But yeah, it was crazy because I didn't think of it at first. I just put my head down. I was like, I need the survival. I don't like. It's not about not that it's not about the money. I need money to pay for treatments. But I was like, how can I serve people as much as possible? How can I help as many people as possible? And I
Yeah.
just focused on that for 18 hours a day for 30 days straight. And then eventually I looked up and I was like, oh shit, this worked. It didn't fall apart. I have money for rent. I have money for food and for treatments and for all these things.
So you even surprise yourself.
Yeah, because I wasn't keeping track. I was just like, how can I help one more person and one more person and one more person?
And that's the beauty of it. It's like you, I guess, love what you do, right? So you never really tracked it. And then it pays off at the end. Like it rewards you.
Yeah. Well, that's how we keep that. Like, that's literally how we keep track of the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the growth that we have. We're 600 plus people now that we've helped transform. And the end goal is 10,000 people by 2033 and a million by 2050. So that's literally how we keep track of our progression, is through how many people we've helped change and transform.
And you have a mission statement for the team and, you
Yeah.
know, where you want to be with that. So is it a million now?
Yeah,
Help
but I said it
1 million.
earlier. I said it earlier in the podcast. Yeah. So just 10,000 by 2023 and a million by 2050.
That's great. So that's the first one. And then how did the second and third one came about?
All the other businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I realized that people will only connect with people that they want to connect with, right? Not everyone's going to like my face or my way
That's
of,
hard to believe.
or my way of talking or my
Yeah.
approach to things. And so I just thought at one point, I was like, there has to be other people that want to do this, but that potentially don't have the knowledge to build a business to that extent. And
Right.
so I'm like, what if I just partner with them and they are the face of that company and I run all the back end? Because I'm really good at building cultures, team, company, systems, all that
Yes, you
stuff.
do.
So I was like, well, what if we just have someone else be at the forefront of it and I'm just in the back? And so partnered up with Brian, and then for Brian, Buff Vegan was born, right? And then so that was beautiful, right? Then I was able to impact more people that would have never connected. Brian's buff, like he's
Right.
super jacked. And people that connect with him, like, I want to be buff like Brian. No one looks at me like, I want to be buff like Maxim. They're like, I want to be athletic like Maxim.
Right.
No one's like, I want to be buff like, I'm not buff. I'm athletic. So I was able to reach a whole new group of people that were impact their life directly through plant-based nutrition. I was like, that's amazing. And it got some good success. And then Justin came in from Fit Rich Vegan. So Justin David Carl,
The
we were
dragon.
just on his podcast, The Dragon. Yeah. Um, so he wanted to start a money and fitness coaching program. Like, how do we get people to get a six pack
Mm-hmm.
and be debt free and increase their net worth? And then so I chatted with him. I was very excited about the project because most people don't have financial education
Right.
when it comes to like not being in debt, paying off debt, increasing their net worth, what their saving rates are, and all that fun stuff. And obviously getting people to be in a really great shape with plant-based eating. So I was like, this is a program I wish I had when I was younger,
Right.
right? Like, how do you get me to get fit and be good with money?
Yeah.
And
True.
Justin is financially free, sitting on a several $1 million, but he put himself in that position, right? It wasn't, no one gave him that money. He worked for it. He was smart with his money. And so he's very financially educated and is surrounded by amazing people. And that's what he's teaching our members through the Fit Rich Vegan Mastermind. And so that's this kind of same scenario. Like, people connected with Justin that wouldn't have connected with me. And so we're able to help even more people with that. And so that's kind of how it started. But after all three companies were up, I was like, man, that's a lot to run three companies. So I just took a break on starting more and just focusing more on the ones that we have so that we can help grow and scale and help more people.
So if you have like just one advice to someone who's just now starting
Don't start three at the same time.
their very first business, you know, what is it that like you learned from this whole time of like running your business? Like what's the most important like thing that they should think about when they're starting a business, or maybe like your top three?
Yeah. Get a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one for sure. Because or else you're going to make a lot of stupid mistakes, a lot. And it'll cost you a lot of money and potentially ruin you ultimately. And you're going to waste a lot of time.
Right.
So get a mentor that has success in the field that you want to improve in and go hire that guy. If you have to rake leaf, sell your old iPods, work overtime to get the money to hire that mentor, go for it. Because ultimately, once you invest in that coach and that mentor, you have more skin in the game. Because the mentor was like, I will teach you for free. When you don't want to do it, you're not going to want to do it. When you have 10 grand on the line, you're like, I should put 10 grand in this. I better do the work.
All right.
So you want skin in the game. I pay for all of my mentors. I had people come to me like, hey, I want to teach you this. I want to do this for free. I'm like, I want to pay you because I want skin in the game. It's not about you. It's about me. Like, I want skin in the game. at the end of the day, it's money, which is just energy, right? If I put that energy into it, I don't get way more out of it. I don't really do deals where I wouldn't get anything out of it.
Right.
So get a mentor in your respective field that you want to improve. That's why I want to hire Tony and his team with that platinum partnership, because that's the next level for me of where I want to go. And he's one of the best in the world at that. So why would I go hire anyone else, right? I'm just going to go invest in him. That's
Smart.
number one. Second, you'll learn that through your mentor as well. Everything else I'm going to tell you now, you'll learn through your mentor if you have a good one. If to find a good mentor, make sure that he is investing in himself continuously. Make sure that he has a proven track record of success. Make sure that he's done it, right? I see too many people online. They're like, we will help you grow your online fitness business. They're like $1 million a year. They have been making $10,000 a year and they have a base. And then they're like, well, I'm going to show you how to make $1 million a year.
Right.
They've never done it themselves, but it's so much easier to sell B2B than it is to sell B2C. So like business to customer versus business to business,
Right.
because to business, there's a tangible return on your investment. So it's people in business will spend far more money. And that's how I justify my things.
It's true.
And so they'll make $1 million from selling B2B, but then they're selling you how to make $1 million by selling B2C.
Right.
All right. So it's like, it's fake.
It's
so
different.
Find someone that's actually done it themselves, that's been in it for a long time. Like Vince, my original mentor, was in for 15 years, and he's done it for 15 years before he started helping other people. That's why when I went to work with him, it was just very much like in alignment, and I got a lot of great value from it. So that's one. Second is provide value. So much value, right? People are giving so much free information away. Like, how do you stand out from other people? So many people are scared to share the real information with others. But then the thing is, like, your listeners will be listening to the piece of information and then they're like not too sure how to implement it because it's so vague in general, and then they don't see changes. Right. I've created trainings on how to set your own macros, your training plan, and how to lose 20 pounds. You literally just message me on Instagram and I'll send it to you. If you literally follow it step by step, you will drop 20 pounds. Right. I literally tell you how to do it. Right. What most people hire a coach for is accountability and implementation. Right.
And those are free value. You're not charging for those. It's great.
No, like, you're not taking any of my time. Like, I built it. Right. And I'm like, this is a business podcast. I'm not dumb. Like, I get your email and I can like message you. Like,
I was gonna say, so what's in it for you?
I get an email and have the opportunity to provide you even more value. So my goal is to get you to a place where you've maximized how far you can go on your own. And then once you're ready to go to the next level, that's what I'm here for. Right.
That's a great business value for you and for others. So.
You can go really far on your own, but there's a certain point where you're like, damn, like, I'm stuck. I don't know how to go further. That's what I'm here for. That's what coaches and mentors are here for. That's what I do. My first mentor, I was like, okay, second mentor, so third mentor, right? So my first mentor was making like, I don't know, I think like 10, 15 million a year.
Oh, wow.
And then once I upgrade to like Tony's like legally making like 600 million a year, but all his companies are making 7 billion a year. Right. So I'm upgrading into like how much my mentor can make.
Yeah. You're stepping up your game.
Yeah, exactly.
So as every single person should be doing, like never cap out.
So
leveling up.
So piece of advice, get a mentor, provide a lot of value, be obviously passionate about what you do, and then take care of your people. If you don't take care of your people, you're genuinely fucked. Because Alex Hormozi said, if you're listening to this podcast and you're into business, you know who Alex Hormozi is. I don't even have to explain. He's like the god of freaking business right now. He's awesome. I'd love to interview him too at one point. But he said, do you want to be in business for like 1 or 2 years? Do you want to be in business for 50 years? Right. And to me, when he said that, I was like, oh man, like, so many people are so focused on like quick strategies and selling and marketing to make quick money now, but they're burning everyone around them. Yeah. Because they're selling, and then people get burnt out and they just leave. To me, I'm not here to make like quick money. Like, I want impact. So how do I stay here for the next 50 years? Right. I have to serve, I have to provide, I have to give valuable information, I have to actually help people. And that's how I've been structuring everything that I've been doing. It's like, how do I help people so much that I can still be here in 50 years and people will be like, Maxim changed my life. It's inspiring. I think I'm going to start my own business now. Well, you can't. You're co-running this one with me. No, you're not. You can't. I'll invest in it. I'll help you start. Yeah, we'll partner. Well, thank you, Maxim. I think you'll have an amazing podcast. I look forward to
watching all the other episodes, and
You'll be hearing them from the office.
yeah, I'll probably like I'll know it firsthand. Also, I'm sure you'll have fantastic, outstanding guests, and we will let your followers and audience and subscriber know about it ahead of time.
Yeah,
So
you're gonna help me with that.
maybe
Ivy
I help
works with
you,
me
right?
on all. Ivy works with me on all the companies.
So is there any last word for the New Maxim podcast and expectations and what they should look forward to, all that good stuff?
Well, first I want to say thank you for taking the time to interview me on a Saturday,
Speaking of
right? She's forced. There's a chain down there, chain and ball attached to her
I
foot.
know whip. It's whipping.
No, say thank you for interviewing me on Saturday. We're going to a nice sushi restaurant, vegan sushi restaurant after. Um,
That's what I'm doing.
I want to say thank you to everyone for listening. Right, if you've made it this far until the end of the episode, ultimately because there's something that connected with you. So I invite you to come back, subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on podcast platforms, subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Check out my Instagram. All the links will be in the show notes. If you want those free training videos for your nutrition, for your fitness, whatever it may be, just send me a private message on Instagram, and would love to send that your way. And yeah, stay tuned. We're going to be posting a podcast episode once a week, simply because I'm still running Fit Vegan podcast. So I'm posting once a week on Fit Vegan, once a week on here. And we're going to do that for a few months for
And it's an
sure.
hour long podcast.
Yeah, Maxim Square might be a little bit longer. Fit Vegan is about like 20 to 45 minutes, depending if I have a guest or not.
Right.
So once a week on each episode. So I invite you guys to check it out as well. It's not just for to be vegan. Like if you want to eat more plant-based, like that, there's a lot of great information, a lot of amazing guests. I've interviewed some of the top people in the industry, in the medical field when it comes to plant-based nutrition, and the doctors and nutritionists that there are. So a lot of amazing guests and value on there as well. So yeah, thank you for interviewing me. Thank you guys for listening. And then we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Ciao.